Good afternoon, good evening. Good afternoon, good evening, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to this Monday episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Welcome one and all. I think New Year's greetings are still in order. So for those of you who are on the program, Happy New Year still. You're still into the new year. Happy New Year to one and all. And I note that today is the first day of school for the year. You know, back in the day when we were small, the people used to say jail door open. So children are back out in school. Well, teachers as well are back out. So welcome. Share the live. Let them know that we are on and that we are prepared and ready to go. My colleague, my co-host is already in the studio, ready to go. So share the live and let them know that we're here today, Monday, the 8th day of January, 2024, a brand new year. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hope you are looking forward for a productive week. So welcome one and all. Share the live. Again, as I would normally tell you, there were so many students in the schoolyard before we went live. And as soon as we went live, those on Facebook have been flooding it. You would note that the introduction this morning was a little different. We had some little technical issues, which I hope to sort out during the course of the day, at least in time for the next program on Wednesday. And you would have noted too, or you may have noted that the image seems to be a little different. We're trying a thing. I'm trying a new camera. I'm trying a DSLR camera to see how it will work. The box that you see there is the image box. I don't know if it is shown on your image, if you're seeing that. But we're trying to upgrade and we're trying to make sure that we have a better quality for the show. That's just the presentation, but you know, the quality in relation to the image, the quality in relation to the content is going to be always top-notch. We have so much again to tell you today, and we're going to go into it in a short while when we do the roll call and all of that. But share the live. I noted that we have some people appear to be new persons on the show. Welcome. I don't know if they're here genuinely seeking to learn. Sometimes they come and they try to distract and they try to troll us, but we're not going to be bothered with that. Having said that, over the weekend, you'd have noted some short clips were posted, and some of them came in. The trolls were out, not in full force, but one and two of them were out. Let me make this plain. I've said this before. This program is no democracy. And if you have your views, we don't mind opposing views. But when people come and they're going to use expletives, and when they are coming here, they don't have any profile picture and all of that, you recognize right away they are not, they are trolls. And I am going to get rid of them. They are amphibians, they are cockroaches, and we're going to treat them the way we treat with those amphibians and the insects. So yeah, they are going to come. They are going to be here. They're making all sorts of comments. We're going to address some of those things a little later. As I said, we're not going to be distracted, but some things, you're not going to allow it to go unchallenged, and we are going to deal with that. So let me know how you think about it. Somebody said the picture not as good as last week. It might need some more lighting and all of that, but we're gonna seek to try to improve. As I've said, we're trying out this camera, and I'm not sure how well it will work, but let's see. Maybe it will require additional lighting, which we are going to get if that is what is required. Now, let me say this. As I've said, we're going to go into the roll call, and after the roll call, we'll make our announcements, and then I'm going to invite my co-host into the studio for us to get it going. Yeah, some people say not as good as before. I think I am seeing it from this end that it's not as good as before, but we are going to address that in time for Wednesday. Now, let me look at the roll call. Oh, man. Students, first Monday in the first school day, new semester, somebody said. Well, our semester actually started last week because we had episode one of season 3, because we are into season 3 now, and we had episode 1 sometime last week. First in class, Vibort, he retained his, or he regained his #1 position. Then we had Tessa Francis rather. Francis from Melanie is here. Barbara came in. Joan was wondering if there was any program on today. I had to reassure her that yes, we're going to have a program today. My squad mate, Gaston, he said he was en route at that time to Florida. Enjoy your vacation. I think you're going to be going on. Pauline, Wayne from the UK is in class. John, Joan, Denise, Kenneth is from Maryland. He's in class. Sean from New York is here, a regular. Orl. Then we had, who was next? Patricia is in class. And she says she's watching from Philadelphia. We have people from all over. Patricia from Philadelphia. Anthony Bradshaw. Anthony is on the East Bank, I think, or selling somewhere there. Desiree is in class. She's watching from Georgia. Then we have Yvonne. And then the one and only Gavin J.K., 14929. He's watching from Baltimore, Maryland. Lucius, I think Lucius is from somewhere that area as well, back in the live. Malcolm, Old Police, 9218, says his number was. Trotty is in class. Carville, my squad mate. Rohan, never misses a class. He's always here. Doreen, my squad mate from Canada, is here. Then who we have? Karen is in class. Patricia G is here. Princess Earl from Lamar Spring is in class. Pamela, Sheila, my squad mate, another squad mate. Bonita is here. Everett is a man from Texas. I remember that very well. Then we had Felicia. Winston from the UK is here. Sharon from the UK. We have lots of people from the UK. Good to see you people on. Then Barlett from Linden is here. Neville is in class. After Neville, we have David. We have Gordon. Gordon is 6659 from Canada. He's here. Then we have a New Yorker, A. Brennan. Then the man from East Bank, Demerara, Vibert is in class. Marvin, Monica is very much here. Let me see. The thing is running away from me. Let me see who's next after that. Let me see who's next. One moment. We are coming to it. Coming to it. A little technical issue here from time to time. Then we have the next. Carlisle is here. The original black man said he was nice to meet me recently. Yeah, it was good meeting you. Putting a face to the name. Then we have Tallulah was here in class. Carl, my squad mate from Arizona, is here. Glendis, very much here. Then we have Maxwell B. from Borbies. Sandra, Lyndon, he said he is watching from Patterson, New Jersey. Maury from New York is here. Then we have, next in class was John, Gloria, Ulrich, Johnny. Yeah, you can see the number of persons who were waiting. Ian, and then we had John, my shooting partner. Isabella, welcome Isabella, another regular. Then we had Philip from New Jersey, is in class. Then we have Ronald. Maureen came in. And Schwartzy, Leon is here. Ulrich, my next squad mate, 9555, all the fives. Orin from UK. Emerson. You see what I'm telling you? All of these people are here just waiting. Clarence. And then when we went live, Raul came in. Ratan, I can't recall seeing Ratan before. Welcome. Carlton, a regular. Lynette from Barbados is here. Then we have Janice, Rudolph, and it went on and on and on. Pamela is very much here. We had Wills is here. All of these persons are in class. Now, let me make some announcements, and then I'm going to invite my co-hosting. Now, first, I want to tell you, let me tell you, I had announced sometime last week the death of a former member, Hopkinson, Granville Hopkinson, 7129 was his regulation number. We receive information that his funeral will be next Sunday, the 14th, in New York, Gorino Funeral Home on Flatlands, 922 Flatlands. The information is that the viewing will be from 2 to 3 p.m. and the funeral service from 3 to 5 p.m. So that is just to bring you up to date with that. And some birthday greetings for today. Today, birthday, we have the birthday of Joseph Harmon, former minister. Happy birthday, Joe. And today is the birthday, too, of former First Lady Sandra Granger. In terms of belated birthdays, we had recent birthday, yesterday it was, of retired Deputy Commissioner Henry Chester. We also had recently retired Assistant Commissioner Eddington Tappin celebrated a birthday. And retired woman Sergeant Lorna Isaacs, she celebrated a birthday not so long ago. Lorna was W145. I remember her very well. And she used to be at the police association when it was housed in the police compound there, the same building that housed OPR some years ago. And in terms of, I want to extend congratulations to some persons. Congratulations first to Colonel Skeet of the Guyana Defense Force. The news is that he has been appointed the defense attaché to the Guyana Embassy in the United States. And also congratulations are in order for Major, one moment. Technical issues. Yeah, some technical issues there. So I had to switch over the camera. Hope you are seeing me better now. Let me know if you're seeing it any better now, because there were some technical issues a while ago and I had to switch the camera. I was saying when the issue came up that Major Douglas of the Guyana Defense Force and Captain Texine Daw, they are appointed to serve on the Guyana Permanent Mission in the United States of America. So congratulations to those officers. And as we are talking about congratulations, I want to also congratulate the newly promoted in the Guyana Police Force. Several junior promotions were made. I don't know why they were not senior promotions, but the junior promotions were made. And when you congratulate, you have to also congratulate Sergeant 546 Colleen, Corporal Colts and Felix, and Lance Corporal 676 Equalizer. For those of you who don't know, Colleen, Colt, Felix, and Equalizer, my understanding, they are horses and dogs. So those horses and dogs were also promoted. So congratulations to all who were promoted, including Colleen, the horse, I think Colleen is, and the dogs that were promoted. Now, you know, a lot of questions were raised on social media about this thing, about promoting animals. And let me say this, some people said that you get a ceremonial promotion for the animals, but I cannot recall these promotions being any special order along with the ranks. I have no such recollection. Maybe it happened, but I have no such recollection. Let me bring in CC, and perhaps he used to be around longer than I am, so he can perhaps comment on that. CC, let me hear you.
Okay, happy to be in the land of the living. I cannot recall any such promotions where you mixing up the horses and the dogs with the regular members of the force. I don't know. I think if you're giving them, you give them special thing. But and then even apart from that, although I'm happy that there are promotions, but then we got to be careful, because from my information, the police has a fixed establishment in terms of sergeants, corporals, and lance corporals. And I understand that they have shattered that establishment, shattered it to the bone. It started some time ago. I think I must mention Leslie James, and then they have continued just promoting people left, right, and center without looking at the establishment. Establishment say You have to get so much sergeant, so much corporal, so much lance corporal. Well, that has been shattered. And congratulations to those persons who celebrated their birthday recently and who will be in the future. I have a special one to shout out. I didn't tell you about it, Paul, but this is for the most wonderful woman in the world, coming from our children, our grandchildren, friends, and relatives. Her name is Jiva Conway, and it's coming from somebody who she knew since 1976. And the name of the person is Clinton Andrew Conway. So congratulations to her. Tomorrow is her birth anniversary.
Congratulations to in advance to Mrs. Conway from speaking out, and from all the viewers and all the students. Congratulations. But let me move on. So you know that we had mentioned some time ago the ICC Cricket World Cup, the T20 World Cup, to be hosted in the West Indies and the USA. Well, over the past week, the fixtures came out, and Guyana was able to get quite a few games, but people complaining. People are complaining about what they believe is the type of games that Guyana will get. I did advise that, look, when the time comes, don't jump up here. Guyana is a venue, but let's see what the matches will be. And I have a little note here to say that the first match will be on June the 2nd. On June the 2nd, we'll have the first match, and that match will be between the West Indies and Papua New Guinea. The West Indies and Papua New Guinea. And then the second match will be on Monday, the 3rd of June, between Afghanistan and Uganda. Then on Wednesday, the June 5th, Papua New Guinea will play Uganda, all at the Providence Stadium in Guyana. Then on Friday, June 7th, Afghanistan plays New Zealand. And then on Saturday, the 8th of June, West Indies plays Uganda. And then there's a semi-final match scheduled for Wednesday, the 26th of June 2024. So those are the matches. And I see people complaining because you say Uganda, Papua New Guinea, and those teams, really, you don't have the top teams. But at least you're going to get on June the 26th, you're going to get a good game, a semi-finals, because you're going to be, if it's semi-finals, you're talking about the two of the top 4 teams playing there. So let's hope. And I must advise, as I had predicted, Barbados has been awarded the finals. Barbados had the finals of the 2007 World Cup. Then they had the finals of the 2010 World Cup. And now the finals of the 2024 World Cup. Barbados will host the game. But a man who went around the place, I had no reservation. I knew Barbados would have been, when you look at the teams that were to be hosting games in the West Indies and the US, I felt Barbados would have been able to get the finals. So let's start in terms of cricket. And for those who are here too, the cricket fans, I know there are many. Ulrich and all of these boys are here. So you'd have seen Australia and Pakistan to see Warner bow out on that game. Good match. Australia won the series 3-0. So I know CC is a cricket man too, and he would want to say something before we move on. CC, what are your views about the matches and the World Cup to be played?
Well, I read about the 5 matches, including the semi-finals, and I was waiting on the publication of the matches so that I can make some arrangement, because the last time in 2007, myself and wife, we watched the finals in Barbados. I had on 2 caps. I had on a Sri Lanka cap and I think it was an Australian cap. And now that the date has been announced, by God's grace, I'll be there at Kensington Oval, hoping to see West Indies lift the cup.
Yeah, well, I guess us West Indians are all hoping for that. And yeah, my squad mate made a comment here on the dogs, and he reminded us about Rio. Rio was perhaps the most famous police dog, and I think Rio was out of rank, but I don't think it was published in the orders like these. Rio was back in the 70s, late 60s, 70s. Rio was a famous police dog. I don't think they've had any other dog as famous as Rio. I think they handle would have been Roger Matar or some one of those stalwarts. He might have been Rio Adarang, but as I've said, I don't think it was published in the manner these Corinne or Colleen and all of those were published. But you said things change, things change. Sometimes it's changed to the better, sometimes it's changed for the worse. It's for you to make that judgment. And as we move into the new year, we said the new year ended so badly. So many deaths on the roads and murders and all of that. If you recall, Canal number 2, Olia's night, man shot and killed man at a wedding house, shot and killed Olia's night at Canal number 2. Then a man at Parica beat his wife to death. That is just around the Christmas time as well. And then I saw that picture of a Wisma man chopped to death, gruesome murder. He was chopped and killed. Then they had one at Graham's Hall where a man was shot and killed. I think the information is his brother is on the run because he had some firearm that he was playing with, and he shot and killed the brother. And then don't forget, we had a fatal motorcycle accident. And this is a one somewhere in Mori where a man riding, and he claimed, somebody claimed that a car that was stationary moved off suddenly and made a U-turn into the path of this motorcycle. He died from that. Then you had a Windsor Forest pedestrian killed. All is around Christmas time, Windsor Forest pedestrian killed. Then you had a driver, and you remember the accident where the driver at Ledestin crashed into a container. I think that was Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, and died. Then you had a construction worker killed at Enmore. So the ending of the year was a bloody one. And when we thought perhaps things would have gotten worse in the start of the new year, they told us on New Year's Day that they had a fire at Lagrange New Year's Day. Initially, they said it was started by children playing with a lighter or something like that. But then the fire service said it was electrical in nature. Then we had a fire at Port Morant. I'm talking about this year, the year just started. Fire at Port Morant in which a 44-year-old teacher died. Then we had a Venezuelan national is said to have perished in a fire at Port Rhine. And only yesterday or day before, I think, there was a fire at New Providence that destroyed a home there. And Bartica police, it is reported, are investigating a murder which occurred between January the 2nd and 3rd. You have the stabbing death of a laborer. Some row over cell phone, they say, and somebody pursued him, stabbed him, he died. That was yesterday, Saturday night, I think that was. And then I saw this morning a serious accident just close to Rivel police station. I hope no one dies as a result of that. But when you see how the vehicle were mangled, you got to really hope that those persons, I saw them removing an injured woman from the vehicle, and her legs appeared to have been shattered and all of that. So, and in the face of all of that, and what happened during the year with all those fatal accidents, murders and all of that, the man who sits, in the chair of the commissioner, the extended squatter, in his New Year message, said that the police had a successful year in 2023. So I want to know what metrics is being used to measure success. They said they had a successful, that is what the extended squatter said, a successful year 2023. We will talk about that a little more. Let me bring in CC for him to.
Yeah, Paul. I think let's move on from that deadly presentation, man.
Yeah. We should move on from that deadly. I mean, it's really sad. It is really sad that almost every day you have fires. The fire service reported that in the last 24 hours or something, they had 4 or 5 fires and all of that. People got to be careful because remember, you can't blame the fire service, you can't blame the police for everything. And we're not doing that. But we're saying people are responsible for their own safety. And we have to take measures, whether we are driving on the roads, whether we are in our homes. We have to take steps to make sure that we are safe. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that that happens in every case. See, moving on, I want to make this point because I saw a release. Let me pull it up here. A news article which says that the state faces 35 million lawsuit after police arrested and jailed the wrong man. The state is facing a $35 million lawsuit after the police arrested and jailed the wrong man. Now, let me say what is reported. And this is where the teaching comes in. It will appear as though, as we have said repeatedly, the ranks are not receiving adequate training. And according to the report, a sergeant was involved in this one. This is a case where a warrant was issued, a commitment warrant. Let me understand. And don't bother with the corporate propaganda unit. They talk about sentencing warrant. There's nothing like a sentencing warrant. It is a commitment warrant. In other words, the court issues a warrant. The person was sentenced, and a commitment warrant committing you to the prison was issued. This man was arrested, or a man was arrested, not this man, a man was arrested. And immediately the man is alleged to have told the police that he is not that person. He says that he is not that person. The police insisted that he is the person. They executed the warrant, took him to prison. The man spent little time in prison before it was finally discovered that he was the wrong person. Well, again, I say it's training because we all know that persons have the same name. You have persons with the same name. If a warrant is issued, especially a commitment warrant is issued for a person, and the person denies that the person who's arrested denies that he's that person. I know the training is you have to get the complainant, that is the person who instituted the charge, to confirm whether or not that is the correct person. In my young years at Sparna Police Station, warrants used to come from the court for errant car drivers. They got their tickets, the traffic ticket, they failed to pay the ticket, and the warrant will be issued. The warrant will have the name of the driver. The warrant will also have the number of the vehicle, the license plate number of the vehicle was being driven at the time when the ticket was issued. In several cases, or in many cases, you arrest a person based on the vehicle number. You see the vehicle and you pull the person in. The driver might claim that, look, I am not the person who was driving this vehicle at the time. I only started driving this vehicle last week. And you're talking about this thing alleged to have occurred 3-4 months ago. I am not that person. Now, from the time that person makes that claim, we were taught that you had to get the complainant, the policeman who issued the ticket, to come to say whether this is the correct person or not. You took no further action in terms of taking this person to prison. And I remember, well, in many cases, because sometimes to get the complainant takes a lot of time. And in those days, I think the traffic ticket was $35. And sometimes the driver will make a calculation and say, look, rather than having to wait all this time for this complaint to come from wherever he has to come from, look, I'm going to pay the fine and end that. But once the person maintains that they are not the person who's named on this warrant, you have to verify. You have to verify. If it's as I say, if it's in this, I'm referencing traffic cases, the policeman who issued the ticket. If it's not a traffic case, you might have a case where, let's say, the person is sentenced to assaulting someone. So in that case, you would have had a virtual complainant. You would have had the complainant who is the police. I explained this before on this program, the virtual complainant and the complainant. You have to get either the virtual complainant or the complainant or to say whether this person who you have arrested is this same person. Because as I've said, people get the same name. People get the same name, and therefore, when you hear Paul Slow, you can assume that is me. There's another Paul Slow, lives at the same address where I live. Right? So you have to verify. And I know Mr. Conway's all his experience would want to say something on this. CC, let's hear your experience on this matter.
Yeah, Paul. I can recall in 1978 when I was stationed at Mabrumo. Before then, I was stationed at Maikoni, and I charged a guy for inflicted grievous bodily harm, where we lashed him out with a wood and broke his arm. The virtual complainant was the only witness on his side, and I, as the investigator, gave evidence. The guy went to court 2 times, and then he stop going to court. Magistrate tried the matter ex parte, a warrant issue for him, and he denied. By then, the virtual complainant had left for the United States of America, so they couldn't locate him. So me as a complainant stationed at Mabrumo, they sent for me. I had to fly out from Mabrumo, go to Maikoni police station, and where I identify him as a person I charge. And he said yes, as he said he was trying a stroke. So the thing is that, as you rightly said, Paul, you find either the virtual complainant or the complainant, the police who instituted the charge, or the person who the offense is committing. And those are simple, basic things that we could do. But then we're not going back to basics. We're doing our own stuff.
And yeah, again, these things are sometimes you are amazed when you see senior subordinate officers are named in these things that we mentioned last week on the last program about the inspector with the situation of custody. These are basic policing things that one would expect, that once you reach certain levels, you understand. The person denies that he is the person named in the warrant, the person we arrested. You have to verify. You can't just jump, even if he has the same name. Even if he has the same name, because as I've said, persons have the same name, and we all know that. In case they don't know that, just look through the telephone directory. They still have telephone directory. Look through the telephone directory, and you will see that they have several persons with the same name, maybe different addresses. And as the example I gave in some cases, at the same address, same name, same address. So you have to do little work, and that should not be that difficult. Should not be difficult. But here you have it. The state now is faced with a $35 million lawsuit over this man spending time in jail when he was not that person. He was not that person. Right? So again, as I said, we teach, and I hope that this type of information gets around. We know lots of policemen, including the senior ones and the not so senior ones, listen. And again, we're gonna share. We're gonna share. Because Mr. Conway just shared his experience, and yeah, Sean, you got date of birth and all might be different. So the point is that you have to investigate, because the date of birth is not going to be on the warrant. The warrant will have a name, the warrant will have an address, the warrant will have perhaps the offense for which this person is committed. Never get all these details. And that is where you, as the policeman, especially if you're a subordinate officer in charge of the station, you have got to go in to get all of these details. You have to get these details before you move to the next step. But let me move on. Let's move on. As I said, some people say God is not a real place. We are all concerned, or I think we are all concerned about the carnage on the road. Every day, actually, some form of accident. Either minor, serious, damage, fatal. Those are categories, accident. And incidents, because the police now bring in a category that they call fatal incidents. Whatever you call it. You have this thing in the country. Now, the president, in his New Year's announcement, his New Year's speech, referenced the carnage on the road. And let me read a part what he said, what he's reported to have said. The president said that the carnage on the roads will be greeted with a robust safety and traffic management plan. That is what he said in his New Year message. Then he went on to say, and listen to this carefully. Listen to this carefully. He's quoted here. I quote, I intend to have a national conversation on the issue within the coming days. Out of that conversation, new laws, regulations, and technology will be implemented to stop the carnage on our roads. Let me read that back so you can understand what is being said here. I quote again, I intend to have a national conversation on the issue within the coming days. Out of that conversation, new laws, regulations, and technology will be implemented to stop the carnage on our roads. That is what the president is reported to have said. Now, I find that very, very strange. What did I find strange? That you're going to have a conversation in the coming days to address this carnage on the road, but you have already decided that out of the conversation, new laws, regulations, and technology will be implemented to stop the carnage on the road. So I asked the question, and I have bright students here. I'm sure they're going to be able to comment. What is the purpose of this conversation you're going to have? What is the purpose of the conversation if you have already decided that at the end of the conversation, you have measures, you already decide what you're going to do. So tell me, students, tell me, I'm going to invite Mr. Conway to tell me, what is the purpose of this conversation that you intend to have in the few days in relation to the carnage on the road, when you have already decided, as I say, that out of that conversation, new laws, regulations, and technology will be implemented to stop the carnage on the road. I can't understand. I mean, this is so unthinkable that you're going to have a conversation to talk about this carnage on the road, but you've already said what will happen following the conversation. So what is the purpose of the conversation? Mr. Conway, help me out here, man. Help me out.
Perhaps, Paul, let me help you out, man. The purpose of the conversation perhaps is just a photo opportunity, because everything has already been prejudged. Or on a more technical point, you're directing the people what they must discuss, what they must tell you. It can't be that you holding conversations, national conversations, and then you already decided what will be done. That is nonsense. But then let me look at it too. The extended squatter had his New Year message, and with all this carnage on the road, I think the message had 22 paragraphs. Apart from him mentioning about the female that was killed outside of the BV police station, and not a word, another word about the traffic situation. That tell us about the strategy, what they're gonna do to stop this madness that is going on the road. Perhaps maybe he's waiting on the president to say something. He chose on the president, let the president do. Maybe he didn't brief the president properly. That's why the president could make a statement like that, man. So maybe they're working in Copal.
Yeah, again, we don't want to make light of this, but because it's a very serious matter. They haven't given the number of road fatalities, road deaths during the past year. And that is, when I talk about the number, we're talking about what they would call fatal accidents and fatal incidents. They haven't given that number, but I suspect it's in over 200. Imagine a country with a population of less than 1 million. All these deaths on the roads, and nothing concrete is being done to address the issue. And on this program, we have said repeatedly, we have offered advice, we have offered suggestions as to what should be done. And with all they're doing and all they talk about, they are failing to address what is said to be the most, one of the most serious issues. And that is corruption. That is corruption. I saw on social media this morning, the question was asked, I can't remember who asked the question, what should be done to improve the situation on the roads? And you could see the comment, a lot of people saying that nothing is going to be effective unless you address the corruption. Unless you address corruption in the issuing of driver's license, corruption on the roads. And there has to be a comprehensive approach if you want to address this issue. Look at this morning, we talked about this morning, just a stone's throw in front of one of the major police stations in Georgetown, Rhineville Police Station, a big smash up. If you look at the damage to those vehicles, speed must have been a factor right in front of the police station, right? So it is a very, very serious matter. And I note what they do. Policemen going and they're interacting with our car drivers, and it's all about a photo op. It's all about PR. They go and they interact, and then the corporate propaganda unit splashes that over social media. And they must recognize that those things are not working. Those things are not working. They talk about the persons driving under the influence of drinks and drugs, and yet still you don't have a proper system to detect persons who are driving under the influence. And I've said here before that the breathalyzer test alone, you're not going to be able to convict persons, especially when they are charged with motor manslaughter. Because the motor manslaughter law says that if you drive a motor vehicle under the being under the influence of alcohol and drugs to such an extent as to be incapable of having proper control of the vehicle, then they charge you for motor manslaughter. It's no longer causing death. And I made the point, we made the point, that therefore a critical issue is proving that the person was above the limit. And we said that the use of the breathalyzer alone is not going to work. And we have seen that in many cases where persons are charged with driving under the influence of alcohol, they plead not guilty, they walk free because the policemen are not trained how to give the evidence. And those are things that you have to address. I have not heard of a single case where persons are tested for drugs. You test for alcohol, yes. Persons are tested for drugs. Look at a recent case on the East Coast we read where a driver of a NIS, the National Insurance Scheme vehicle, proceeding west according to what it is being said. In other words, in the Better Hope area, proceeding towards Georgetown. He somehow lost control of the vehicle. The vehicle went across on the northern side. He was on the southern half of the road. The vehicle crossed the median, went over to the other side, struck and killed a construction worker, and then hit some other vehicles and so on. They said at the time when it was reported, they said that he had 0.61, two readings from the breathalyzer, and he had 0.61 and 0.71, something in that range. They did not say in the release what is the legal limit. But I felt, I think that was above the legal limit. And therefore, I was surprised to see that this man now is charged for causing death by dangerous driving. You remember in the case that Mr. Kanu referred to earlier, where the policewoman was struck and killed in front of the Betterwalkton police station, the driver was above the limit. So he was charged with motor manslaughter, rightly so. Rightly so. But this case, the man is charged for causing death by dangerous driving. So you want to know what is the big difference? I know a policewoman died and the book should be thrown at the driver, but there's another life as well. So you don't know. These are things that got to be clarified. And I've said again, the law talks about driving under the influence of drinks or alcohol and drugs, and you got to do the tests. I don't know that the tests for persons driving under the influence of drugs, you're made to blow into the breathalyzer to determine the quantity of alcohol in your breath at the time. But what happened to the next step? And I'm saying that if you want to really address these things properly, if you want to address the carnage in the road, you have to look at all of these things. All of these things you have to look at. It has to be a comprehensive review of the situation. We're losing our precious resources, our human resources, at a fantastic rate. Don't talk about the cost of damage, disability, and all of that. Don't talk about that. Don't talk about the grief. Don't talk about the disruption to family life and all of that. So, yeah, Mr. President, it is good that you're going to have a conversation, but I don't think the conversation will make any sense because you've already decided what measures are going to be taken following the conversation, which you have not had as yet. So let me bring in Mr. Conway to close off this, and then we're going to move on. Yeah, Mr. Conway.
As you rightly said, Paul, they're not addressing corruption, or as somebody mentioned, the jaguar in the room. And corruption is perhaps the main thing. They're looking at the fruits, and they're not looking at the root cause of this problem. We go back to the Lorna driver package. They take it away from the cops and Faith and give Zaro. And Zaro is doing their own thing for us because Zara built computer centers across the country. They have confidence, they have faith in Zara, but Zara doesn't have angels. And there's something called computer fraud that they need to do anti-corruption and integrity testing in Zara. They need to do anti-corruption and integrity testing on those certifying officers. Persons who can't drive are getting driver's license. Persons who can't drive has not done any practical tests. More so night driving. Take a check and see what's going on. Check and see how many persons doing on a weekly basis doing the learner driver practical examination, which will cause them to be issued with competence. And check and see the large numbers of persons who are rushing to GRA so that they can get their driver license based on the practical test they do. You look at it, a vast difference. And we, unless they address corruption, we're not gonna go away. Things gonna continue to happen. I'm saying do anti-corruption tests, do integrity testing. And let me tell you my experience when I took over commanding board base. I mentioned it before, but I think it's important that I mention it. I discovered that West Coast board base are the brightest persons in Guyana when it comes to the driving test, the theory. That the average was in the 90s. Over 90% of persons who did the test, they were passing the exam. And I put some systems in place. Got different persons to supervise the exam. Make sure I say here, the exam paper mustn't sleep at Fort Wellington. It must sleep at New Amsterdam. And when the exam is finished, it must be properly sealed and two persons got to verify it and it must come over to New Amsterdam. And believe it or not, in a short period of time, the average gone down to 64, 65%. And then I also discover at Springlands are the best drivers in Guyana. We had the SOP that you had developed always saying that every week a list of persons who are registered to do the practical exam must be sent to the commander, and the commander will ensure that a member of the general duty staff is there to work along with the certifying officer, and they will work and they'll be rotated. And Springlands used to get 100% pass. So I called the certifier. I say, hey, I don't care if we do it, but I don't want to see no 100% pass. No, I mustn't send nothing with no 100% pass to me. And he mentioned that he is the certifying officer. The commander is not the certifying officer. And only he could give driver license. The commander can't give driver license. And things are come back 100% coming to me. So I call him and quietly I say, you have been transferred to Oriala police station, which is about 60 miles up the Quarantine River. He says, or give me a couple more honeymoon. I said, no. I'm going to find you floating in the Quarantine River because you're taking the people money and you're involved in corruption. Go to Oriala and certify those boats. That will be your duty down there. And that was the end of it. That the commanders are saying earlier, the commanders has got to be involved in this traffic situation. Don't leave it at the traffic chief or the certifying officer or the travel officer. The commanders have got to be involved. They're in charge of lock, stock, barrel, gun, ammunition, and everything. They got to be involved in traffic, or we won't get anywhere, Paul.
Yeah, they have to be involved. And talking about the man and the NIS driver, I just saw I have it here, that when he was tested according to the report, they say the first reading was 0.69 and the second reading was 0.71. That was his alcohol level reading when he was tested. He's charged with causing death by dangerous driving. I don't know why not motor manslaughter. I don't know if that is below the legal limit. And then we reminded here by one of the students of the accident, the incident, they call it accident, and Kanji some time ago, I think it was last year, earlier the year before, where this contractor, there was an argument in front of some wedding house, and the contractor was summoned. He came with his motor vehicle. He got into some argument with some person there. He went into the vehicle and drove into a crowd and killed a man. And rather than some homicide charge, he might end up charged with causing death by dangerous driving. So all of these are issues that we have to address. But let me move on, and I want to address a particular quickly. When we reported on the fire, I think it was just Christmas Eve night or Christmas at Linden, that killed the woman and her 2 children, I said, based on the findings, because the fire service said the fire was maliciously set. And they've said if the fire was maliciously set, then that is a murder. Then later on, the fire service said, or the autopsy said, that the persons died from smoke inhalation. And people are saying, a few persons said, well, if it's smoke inhalation, then it is not murder. Children, let me tell you, if you set a fire to a building, as in this case where the fire service said that the fire was maliciously set, and persons in that building die from smoke inhalation from the smoke, remember the smoke came from this fire, you are responsible for their death. So if it's not murder, it's manslaughter, it's an homicide. So let's understand it clearly. They don't have to, the postmortem does not have to say that they died from burns, because in most cases when you have these fires, most cases, they will tell you, the postmortem, that the person died from smoke inhalation. Even when the body is burned, they say smoke inhalation caused the death, and then the burns are postmortem. So let me understand it. And then we saw another case, the one on the where the person died this year, the man at Port Moran, same cause of death, smoke inhalation. So let us understand that. So for those students, I know a lot of you are bright, and you will know that if you set a fire to a building which results in the death of person or persons, you are responsible. You are responsible. If no one dies, you might catch an arson charge or attempt murder. If person dies, it's murder or manslaughter. So let's understand this clearly. Now, moving on. I have an issue here. Let me see. I may ask you, CC, you want to make any comment on that, CC?
You're quite correct. You know, my training is that most times with fire, person don't die from burns. Smoke. The nail is smoke, and that's the cause of death. And that's my training with the FBI.
Yeah, that is what it is. So again, teaching. Now let me address this issue that is not going to go away for just now. And I refer to the Rickford Burke summons issue. Let me label it as that. For those of you, I don't think anyone here is not familiar with what transpired. Well, let me give a quick recap. Rickford Burke lives in the United States of America. He's a U.S. citizen. Rickford Burke has been a thorn in the side of the government. He's calling out corruption. Somehow he is living rent-free in the vice president's head. The vice president will not have a single press conference without mentioning Burke. And what I find very strange is that the same vice president, I'm referring to Bharat Jagdeo, the second vice president, he is on record saying that this man, Rickford Burke, has no influence. He lives in a basement and he runs a one-man organization. But notwithstanding that, every week he and Burke, every week. And they have weaponized the police force. They have weaponized the Cybercrime Act to institute charges, let's say, against Burke. Now, strangely, what happened is that a police officer from Guyana, an assistant superintendent, Sabaro, traveled to the United States during last month, December. It appears for the sole purpose of serving a summons that was issued by a magistrate in Guyana on Rickford Burke in the United States. And the propagandists have been out in full force trying to justify. And I find it amazing that people, especially those with legal training, will seek to say that a policeman from Guyana can travel to any other country, including the United States, to serve a summons that was issued in Guyana by a magistrate in Guyana on a United States citizen. I find it mind-boggling. But that is the argument that they have been using. That is the argument that they have been saying, that this man has the authority, this policeman in Guyana can travel to the U.S. and serve a summons on a U.S. citizen for an offense alleged to have been committed in Guyana. I'm going to give you some details. So that is the background to this thing. That is the background. Now, the vice president, Bharat Jagdeo, made a statement, and let me read I know they said back pursue you. They said back pursue. So I want to make sure I do my research. And there's a headline on the 28th of December. There's a headline in one of the social media posts: a government to go after social media influencers for irresponsible comments against government. That is what the vice president is quoted to have said. Let me read that. It said social media influencers. The government will go after social media influencers for irresponsible comments against the government. And let me read quickly a part of it. The government of Guyana signaled its intention to go after social media influencers for what it considers to be irresponsible comments against government officials and private individuals on social media. At a Freedom House press conference today, that is December the 28th, Vice President Barajagdio said persons who make comments on social media will be held responsible for those comments. He said private citizens should also take action against those influencers who use social media platforms to attack them. And they're quoting him, quote, so I hope that the social media influencers who are operating under the guise that they are not in our jurisdiction and they feel safe abroad, safe from the reach of our law, that they are taking note too. And I hope that anyone that they malign, sue them now and hire somebody abroad to serve them notice or a summons and to make sure they video it like they did Rickford Burke and then proceed to the court. That is what Vice President Jagdeo is quoted as saying. Social media influencers. Now, following that statement, there has been a pushback. People talk about this autocratic behavior. You're going to a all sort of description they use. And all of a sudden, the vice president now has pivoted. He pivot now. It is not going after social media influencers and for free speech. It is now going after Burke because Burke is alleged to have committed the crime of extortion and all that. So this is what he said. And here, let me read further what the police really said. At the time, this is a release of the police on the 20th of December, 2023. The Guyana Police Force, the Corporate Propaganda Unit, said this. Wanted fugitive Rickford Burke served with defendant summons. That is what they said. Then they go on to say, on the 3rd of December 2021, the Guyana Police Force issued a wanted bulletin for Rickford Burke in relation to the following offenses. The excitement of hostility or ill will on the grounds of race under the Racial Hostility Act. Sedition under the Cybercrime Act. The use of a computer to coerce and intimidate persons under the Cybercrime Act. The seditious libel contrary to common law. Seditious libel under the Peace and under, well, let's what it says, seditious libel under the Peace, under the Summary Jurisdiction Act, and inciting public terror under the Criminal Law Offences Act. That's what they said, That is the release that they gave. So this thing, all of a sudden the vice president talking about extortion and so on, that's not part of the release. And let me say forward, I did some investigation. The question came up as to how this magistrate can issue a summon for someone who does not reside in Guyana. That was one of the questions that was being or continues to be debated. How this magistrate issue this summon. I live in the States. The magistrate issued the summons. Well, let me tell you what my investigation has revealed. My investigation has revealed that the address of Rickford Burke is not a U.S. address, despite the vice president, they talk about Burke living in U.S. The address on the complaint that was filed against Rickford Burke, which resulted in the application for the summons, they say he lived at East Coast. Let me put it up, and then I'm gonna bring in Mr. Conway. Y'all read along with me. Look, this is a complaint without oath. And here what it says here in the Georgetown Magisterial, in the Georgetown Demerara Magisterial District. Georgetown Magistrates Court. You have the name of the complainant there. Stephen Hines, Detective Sergeant 22578 of the Criminal Investigations Department quarters versus Rickford Burke, male, African descent, age 49 years, a consultant, resides at Fellowship, East Coast, Demerara. I got that from the particulars from the matter before the court. He lives, according to them, at Fellowship on the East Coast of Demerara. So right away, I think this clarifies some issues as to why they go and they like to say where this man live. And again, I suspect the magistrate or the clerk, whoever it is, would have dealt with this based on the address on the complaint. And let me get the other part. Look what it says here is the Vice President talking about extortion and all that. The statement of offense, look, the statement of offense there. Using a computer system to humiliate a person contrary to Section 19.5A of the Cybercrime Act 2018, Act number 16 of 2018. That is what, and look, the particulars, tell you how does do research. Look at the particulars. This is the particulars of offense. The defendant on the 25th day of November 2022, and I like to be read, at lot 205 Camp Street, North Commingsburg, Georgetown. In the Georgetown Ministerial District, use a computer system to disseminate information knowing same to be false that subjected Kwame McCoy to public ridicule, contempt, hatred, and embarrassment. That is the particulars of the offense of the charge. And there are other particulars with different dates. And let me give you the different dates. There, I think that is one of 3 or 4, I think. I made a note of the date. One of the dates is the 19th of January, 2023. And even before that, one of the offenses is alleged to have been committed on the 10th of June, 2022. So that is what it is. So they got a lot of questions to be asked here and answered. Let me bring in Mr. Conway and CC. Try explain this to me. Explain that to our viewers. First of all, let me deal with the first part. The complaint without oath, which says that Burke lives at Friendship, East Coast, Demerara. Of your say.
This thing is ridiculous, you know. All the time they send him all living in the States. Now perhaps maybe they deported him and sent him along to give him address at Friendship. But then we look at the bottom, Rickford Burke, male of African descent, age 49 years, a consultant residing at Friendship, East Coast, Demerara. Yeah? I wonder why they put of African descent. And then if the is in the Georgetown Martial District, how you find yourself till at East Coast in the East Demerara Magistrate District? This whole thing is
let me bring up the particulars. The particulars is what we're going to address that, because the particulars, this is what they are alleging. Yeah. Go ahead, CC.
And at 205 Camp Street North, Commingsburg. And you know where that place is, Paul. I think we have discussed, and that place is the office of the Prime Minister.
Yes, that's where the offense is alleged of committed.
Office of the Prime Minister. So Burke committed the offense at the office of the Prime Minister against Kwame McCoy. Ridiculous. These things can't stand in no court. You know, it is mind-boggling, Paul. I don't even know really for say, but look at it. Look at it. 205 Camp Street North, Commingsburg. That's where the Prime Minister office is. Or they feel that, Paul, you don't know research. You don't check out things. Huh? They feel like I just brush this under the carpet. No way, thank you, no way.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this. Looking at this, the complaint without oath and the particular. Let me put up back the complaint without oath on this thing. You know, as we said before, I can anticipate a nice legal battle brewing in terms of this, because the complaint without oath is a complaint in the Georgetown Ministerial District And for those of you who don't know, they are magisterial districts within the country. And a magistrate has jurisdiction in his or her particular district. So in this case, the Georgetown Magisterial District being the largest, you have several magistrates in the Georgetown Magisterial District. Then you have the East Demerara Magisterial District. Now, if an offense is committed in the East Demerara Magisterial District, the case has to be tried in that district. A magistrate in Georgetown, except the chief magistrate, would not have jurisdiction to try that case. The chief magistrate is, and this is an important thing for you to know, and she has overall jurisdiction. So if an offense is committed in Essequibo, in the interior, we used to, back in the day, you have like Bartica, for example, something they had court once a month. A man commits a serious offense, you can't keep him in custody for all this time. So what you do, you take him before the chief magistrate, who has the authority to hear the case, and then she would transfer the matter to the relevant jurisdiction. But here you have a case where, according to what the complaint without oath is saying, is that this matter, Burke lives in, the way he lives is not very critical, because you can live anywhere, but it's where the offense is committed. So understand this, where you live, he lives at Fellowship, East Coast Demerara. In terms of an offense, that is not the critical element, because you can live in Bartica, you can live at Letem, and you commit an offense in Georgetown. The critical issue is the district in which the particulars is alleging. And in this case, they're saying that this offense is committed in the Georgetown Magisterial District. So if it's a case in the Georgetown Magisterial District, tell me how come the East Demerara Magisterial District issued the warrant or purported to have issued a summon in this case. And as I said, what we got to have here, my brother, is a nice, I said nice, is a legal battle in terms of jurisdiction, in terms of this whole thing, in terms of the entire process. And coming back as to whether a police officer can travel from Guyana to come to the US, and that is what the vice president is encouraging, right? The vice president said, and let me read again, because I know they're listening, and I'm going to report to you if he hasn't seen himself. So I hope that, and according to him here, according to what is reported in the media, so I hope that the social media influencers who are operating under the guise that they are not in our jurisdiction and they feel safe abroad, safe from the reach of our law, that they are taking note too. And I hope that anyone that they malign, sue them now and hire somebody abroad to serve them notice or the summons, and to make sure that they video record like they did to Burke and then proceed to court. Madness. Madness. Nobody outside the Guyana jurisdiction can serve a Guyana summons. The law is clear. A police constable. And when you go to 1601 and they define police constable being not only the junior rank, but anybody in the police force, including the auxiliary, like this RCs and the supernumerary, and now they have the community police people. They are deemed to be police, and they can serve within Guyana. That is what the law says. That is what the law says. But all of a sudden, the vice president and all of these propagandists believe that you can send a police. I want you to think about this carefully, what they're saying. And you don't have to have legal training, in my view. They are making an argument that a policeman in Guyana can jump on a plane, gets a warrant, gets a summon from a court in Guyana. Of course, it looked like they forged the thing. Well, not forged. It looked like they put a fictitious address to bamboozle the magistrate. They put an address, East Coast Demerara. And the only reason they would have done that, in my view, is that because they are aware that if they were to put a New York address on that file, on that complaint, no magistrate in Guyana will sign it because they're going to recognize that they don't have jurisdiction. But so they put an East Coast Demerara. And the question again, why East Coast? I wonder who is the magistrate there. Why East Coast? Why they're trying to get this case They're claiming that the offense committed in Georgetown, but they're trying to get it on the east coast of Demerara. I'm going to investigate that too. I'm going to investigate that as well. So they want you to believe. Some people with legal training, perhaps they didn't attend all the classes, but people with legal training want you to believe that the policeman in Guyana, having successfully applied for a summon for someone who lives in the U.S., and no less limited to the U.S., for someone who lives abroad, he can then jump on a plane, travel to that country where the person resides, and get, according to what the vice president is saying, get someone who is authorized to serve process in that other jurisdiction to serve the process. And as we explained last week, I'm smiling. As we explained last week, when the time comes, I think this matter is returnable on the 24th of March. When the time comes, the police will have to go and give evidence as to service. The police has to give evidence as to service. Right? So again, you're going to get a lot of fun. Or unless the vice president intends to bring this processor, the man who served, as he says, from the U.S., and to bring him to give evidence that he served this summon on Burke. This is absolute madness. I have some other things to talk about. Let me bring in Mr. Conway to have his say, and then we're going to continue. CC.
Boy, is the processor legally empowered to solve anything? You bring a U.S. citizen to just solve. The whole thing is ridiculous, Paul. The whole thing is ridiculous. And I'll be watching on the date of court hearing. But my suspicion is that they had wanted to find a way to prove that the summons was properly served. As I said in the previous episode, if the magistrate deemed that the summons was properly served, and I can't see in this instance how we could deem it properly served, but just in case that it was properly served, he has two options. He can issue a warrant for him, or he could do an ex parte trial. And do an ex parte trial, bring him guilty, so you get him as a criminal, as what his vice president say that Burke is a criminal. That's the idea. Do things and to deem Burke legally a criminal. And you do an ex parte trial. But perhaps they must be, maybe they get the own magistrate. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, I see somebody asked the question. He said they thought that Burke case was something to do with BM suit and extortion. That is what the vice president now is pushing. That is what he's saying. After being caught up in this backlash about going after social media influencers, they're now bringing a total different story. And that is what they do. They bring a totally different thing to say that, it is not about free speech. It's about people who committing crimes. And I want to remind the vice president, I want to remind the attorney general, I want to remind the DPP and all of those persons that according to the Constitution of Ghana, I think it's Article 44, a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So the vice president likes to call people, especially Burke, a criminal and all of that. If we are to use the same measurement, if we are to use the same yardstick, then the vice president too, Bar Jack, is a criminal because you have a serious allegation. What I believe is the most serious allegation of corruption level against any politician in Guyana, and perhaps even in this part of the world. And I'm referring it to the Sugate, where the vice president entertained Chinese businessmen in his living room. Now, that is not an allegation. That is a fact. The tape is there to support that he entertained Chinese businessmen in his living room. The allegation is that he accepts, or there is an arrangement where Sue collects $500 million from businessmen, Chinese businessmen in particular, to get contracts. That is the allegation. And it was never investigated. And the vice president benefited from the presumption of innocence because up to now he's still innocent. He has not been proven guilty. No investigation was done. Now you tell me which other part of the world where a proper democracy operates that such a serious allegation we made against a senior politician and he just brushed aside. They just play rope-a-dope, you roll with the punches, and everybody's silent about it now. And this is the man who has the temerity and the audacity to be referring to people who have not been convicted by any court of law as a criminal. He is the person who is doing that. He has had so many serious allegations made against him by his own wife. And this is the man who is pointing fingers at people and calling people low life. He calling people basement dweller and all kind of things. This is the man. This is the man. He calling people coward. He said Burke is a coward. He should come and face. Jack Dio, sued Freddie Kissoon. And he was so cowardly that he did not even go to the trial to pursue the lawsuit against Freddie Kissoon. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember? So you're talking about coward. And I said this. When I grew up in the country, Peter said, a boy who hits a girl is a coward. Right? That's to tell you must never strike a female because they deem you a coward if you were to do so. And I know too, growing up, they say that if you treat your partner in a sort particular way, then you are a coward too. If you treat your wife, you treat your spouse in a particular way, right? As was described by the Vice President's wife, you're a coward. So don't hustle and label people. I know you get your sickle pants and then they're going to rub shoulder and they're going to brace and they're going to social clothes and they're going to close with you and so on. But the facts are there. The facts are there. And CC, let me tell you this about this same matter. The same service of summons. We referred last week to two articles, one written by Dr. Vivian Williams and one written by former magistrate Don Hallert. Don Hallert wrote, and I think a good reading because she talks about in Dr. Williams's article, he speaks about what you call beyond the reach of process. In other words, you're saying there are certain cases where you can't reach person. The law doesn't allow you to go and solve process on the person. And Mr. Lord spoke about Cush now, Donna Lord Cush, spoke about the law in relation to service of summons within Guyana. Now, this despicable thing, and I'm referring to no other than Nigel Dharamlal. The boy posted something on social media which was drawn to my attention, attacking former magistrate Cush. And basically what he's saying is that Cush was silent during the aftermath of the 2020 election. And then he's saying now that the fact that she wrote an article saying that a magistrate does not have the authority to serve a summons or to issue a summons for person outside the jurisdiction, he said she is actually what he said. Let me read what he said. He said no amount of legal distraction will save Rickford Burke from the consequences of his absence in court. And then he go on. Your seeming defense, he referring to Cush, your seeming defense of his absence from court to me as a layman. Well, not as layman. You're not only a layman. You got other things to describe you, another set of man to describe you as. Ask the little 16-year-old indigenous girl what she said. He said to me as a layman, and here this jackass, and I'm going to call him by his right name. Here this jackass. What she wrote amongst is a conspiracy, an illegal attempt to obstruct justice, which I believe should be investigated by the Guyana Police Force, Moabir Anil Nandalal, Attorney General, and the Bar Association of Guyana. And I got to ask the question, is that another dog whistle? And while you're at it, Dharamlal, if they're going to investigate Don Cush, because she wrote an article pointing out the law as it relates to the service of summons, why do they not write for the DPP to be investigated for deciding that you should not be charged for rape and buggery? As we at it, let me go. Because if you want something like this, somebody writes a letter, a person who was a magistrate in Ghana writes to say, as she quotes the law, to say that the law does not allow for a magistrate to issue a summons to be served outside of Ghana. That is what she said. And Dharamlal is saying that that is a conspiracy, an illegal attempt to obstruct justice, and he believes it should be investigated by the Guyana Police Force. Moabir Anil Nandalal. I don't know Nandalal is the investigation. and the Guyana Bar Association. And I'm saying that if they're going to investigate former magistrate Kushudat, then they should also investigate the DPP and the crime chief and all of them. Because in the face of strong evidence, compelling evidence against you in the allegation that you raped and you groomed, you raped and you buggered that little Amerindian 16-year-old girl back in, I think it was December 2022, 23rd of December, I think it is 2022, then they should be investigated as well. They should be investigated. This is why you are not before the court facing those serious charges. And this one, before you remain under the rock, he crawled under a rock following the allegation and following the intervention of the DPP not to charge him in the face of compelling evidence. And he covered the rock. He covered the rock to attack me. And then he crawled back. Now he come out again to attack Kush. And they like attack women, you know. They like attack women, prominent women. It looks like they get a penchant for attacking prominent black women. So, Cece, let me hear your take on this, my brother.
As you rightly said, you know, damn loud children, Stacey, you get a right to remain silent, because if the DPP didn't adopt a so unlawfully adopt the Songo's action, damn Lala might have been in Camp Street or Mazaruni or somewhere. And if you want investigation, let us do the investigation. As already said, start with the DPP. There's numerous matters where the DPP just null pros. You look at that. A man at 19 for a charge and the DPP null pros. A person accused of stealing law books, the DPP null pros. The finance man had charges. But the law is that you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Justice Gino Posad said so in your case, Paul. So they want to give you a charge and you're a criminal. No. It can't work that way. It will never work that way.
But they don't even want to give you a charge to deem you a criminal. They want you to, they make an allegation, and based on the allegation, you are a criminal. And that is why I'm making the point that if you're to use that as a yardstick to measure, then you have a lot of criminals allegation made against a lot of people, serious allegation made against the vice president, corruption. Nothing. It was never even investigated. Serious allegation made against the head of the major crime unit, right? They say attacking about the report with the paper shards killing. All of these are serious allegations. And where was the report? Allegation made, I see somebody on social media posted yesterday, allegation made some years ago against the current traffic chief of allegation of a sexual assault. And so if you're going to label people criminal based on allegation, then don't use this narrow brush. Everybody, including yourself, that is what you have to do. But they are very selective. And I believe this, and I've said this. This is not about getting Burke convicted, because, again, I am sure they know that what they have there can't get no conviction. That's like in our case when they charged us a conspiracy to commit fraud. They knew that there was no evidence. And as we pointed out last week, the file went before the legal people at the DPP's chamber. The junior one saw that there was no case. The DPP decided, let them go to court. So that must have been some political direction. Let them go to court to tarnish your image and your character. Then you get off down the road. Right? That is what this thing is about. So with the Burke is for them to push a certain narrative that, oh, he served with a summon. As a police corporate communication unit, the most disgraceful unit in the force. So imagine they are issuing a release on the 23rd of December. Wanted fugitive Rickford Burke. When is a person a fugitive? This is a person, I check the dictionary. Don't listen to me. For them to be calling the police corporate communication unit, referring, that's a political unit headed by Mark Ramatar. A political unit. For you to issue a release and headline it, wanted fugitive Rickford Burke served with defendant summons. When is a person fugitive? When? And that is what we have. It's the same Mark Ramatar and the corporate community are calling names. Let them sue me. Issued some time ago with a matter, somebody slapped with charges. That is not, those are not words that professional people use. That a person is slapped with charges. That is to the tabloids, and that's to them sensational outlets. Person slapped with charges. Those are not words used by a professional unit. Wanted, fugitive. Those are not words. Those are the words being used by the politicians, and they feel perhaps compelled or they're instructed to use similar words. That is what you have. That is what you have. And again, I say that with this argument that you can go any place, that's what I'm saying. Not me, I know different. But these people are arguing that a policeman from Guyana can jump on an airplane, he gets a summons, and go and serve it any part of the world. And I want to say this. See what this one they want? You know, I say I like to do my research. See, look at this one. If they have all this authority to go abroad and do all this work, what happened to this? What happened to this? These are the two persons who are alleged to have killed the police. Remember in 2020, I think it was, a policeman went missing. And then sometime last year, the case broke open and they said that these two persons are wanted for murdering the policeman. Now, if it is that you have all this authority, why you don't go after them? You're going after Burke, who lives in the States, because you say you have authority to go there and to serve summons. If you have the type of authority, I suspect that you also have the authority, based on your logic, that you also have the authority to go after to these people who are wanted for murder. And not only any ordinary murder, they murder one of your colleagues. They murdered one of your colleagues, but you're not going after them. You're going after a man who, according to the vice president, lives in a basement, runs a one-man organization, has no influence, but yet still, apart from the basement, he lives rent-free in the head of the vice president, because not a single press conference, to the point where some time ago, I'm going to tell you all about it some time ago, I'm going to pull up the dates. It gets so ridiculous that the vice president commented on Burke tight pants. Can you imagine that? A man, let us say a person commented on the next man or a next person tight pants. That is, to my mind, how ridiculous this thing is. That is my point. And I'm putting up there, I'm leaving this picture here for let people to see. These two persons, the woman seems to be of the Muslim faith, Islam. I don't know what faith the man is. He named Samaru, they say. But I'm only saying that if you have this wide jurisdiction, then maybe you can send not only one police, you can send a team of policemen to track them across the world, wherever they are, to arrest them because they are wanted for murder. And they murdered one of your colleagues. Let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to have a say in this. CC, what do you think? Should they not go after these two wanted criminals, according to them?
Certainly. And in addition to that, remember that issue with a doctor who there was allegation that he raped a pregnant Venezuelan woman. So far, no wanted bulletin in for him. And I know him, remember they had a fire in Jalajachong Hospital? During that investigation, they had a little talk with him, so they know him well. No wanted bulletin for people who, certain allegations are being made against them. Well, let it go for the Muslim, or they're afraid to touch any Muslim. There are Muslims being protected, or other religions being protected. No. Go after them if you have the legal authority to go at any part of the world. And I listened to Nanlal, I got to go back to the clip where he was saying he was anticipating that with this summons that is served, that is going to reach to CCJ. And if the CCJ rule against that, he is going to amend the law to give them the authority to go all over the world. And somewhere around that, I gonna find a clip that he anticipate, hey, this gonna go to CCJ. And if CCJ rule against it, he gonna amend the law. So it means for say that right now the law is not substantial, the law ain't covering anything. A kind of tacit admission.
But if there is a case, there got to be the ramblings of a madman, because you can't just go, for example, in the States, you have to get visa, you have to get outside of clearance to go there. So even if you amend the law in Guyana, let me say hypothetically you amend the law in Guyana, and the other country decide, well, you can't come. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to tell them that your law is superior and therefore they have to accept that? Let me think this thing through. Sometimes these people just talk, they don't think, because if you anticipate that this matter is likely to reach the CCJ, and the CCJ is likely to rule that the policeman in Guyana cannot go to another country and serve a summon. So you're going to amend the law, because the law as it is says that the summon has to be served by a constable within Guyana. So you're saying, all right, you're going to make it that the law, Guyana law, will now say that this summon can be served by anybody in any part of the world. All right, that's you law. So what happens with the other country that they have to travel to? Let's say they have to travel to the US, and the US say, well, you cannot come on a visitor's visa to do that. You cannot. And even if you get the thing, you have so many other issues. Because right here, somebody mentioned it, you mentioned it last week, right away in the States, you have state law, you have local law, you have federal law. And a man who's a local police can't cross the border to go and act in another jurisdiction. He cannot. You have to get the federals if it's a federal to deal with that. So you're saying that you, man from your country, can go to another country and execute a process? This is got to be the ramblings of a madman. A man who perhaps, if he did say that, a man who did not take his medication. So let me understand what is being said. See, the next issue, as you talk about the cleric, not the cleric, sorry, the doctor, months now, alleged to have raped a pregnant Venezuelan woman. He lured her into his home on the pretext that he has a job to offer, and when she went there, he raped her. Up to now, they have not issued a bulletin. I'm not aware that he's arrested and charged or nothing. They can't arrest and charge a man who is known to them in Guyana, but they can travel. They want to tell us that they can travel to the US and serve a summon. And then there's another issue that came up about a few weeks ago. Mark Vera, 5 charges recommended by the DPP's chamber. And I'm choosing my language carefully here. DPP's chamber. I said the DPP's chamber. And we know that if it's a chamber, the DPP is also responsible. But I understand that the dancing up to now, I am not aware if he did go to court. There's been no release. The police propaganda unit, quick to jump and make release. And certain other thing, that thing that is weak down the leg side, like to make release. But I suspect because the thing and get promotion with Colleen and them horses and them dog, maybe the thing might be dissatisfied. No release about this story with Mark Vera, none. So that's what we're saying. We live in the animal farm. All of us are equal, but some are more equal than others. So you see, man catch with bucket with little marijuana all over the place. A man do any little thing, splash all over. But certain people can commit whatever crime, like Dharam Lal, and think, well, Eon was there, or then no charge. No charge. And that is what we have. So, CC, your closing remarks, my brother.
Okay, this is a disturbing one. I went to Borbis yesterday, and whilst in Amsterdam, and Sunday was a function where His Excellency the President was there on the mental ground, what we call the psychiatric hospital ground. I think he was talking about the construction of a new hospital in Borbis. And I look around, I'm always inquisitive. And about 150 yards away from where this ceremony was taking place, on the boundary, I saw a lot of black clothes police. So I wonder who really are these police. So I went there. I mean, I went to the function. It's a free public interest. So I roam about the place. And there I saw at least about 12 neighborhood police. And it was midday. In the sun, they're standing behind barriers. I think about 12 of them, all females, standing behind barriers there in the sun. I understand they've been there for hours, no water to drink, anything. And they're there because they don't want, to use words that the inspector told me, that they don't want any madman run out from the hospital compound and go and attack the president. So they were doing protective security for the president 150 yards away and behind barriers and for hours in the sun. And I left and I went to Corverton. And then they were all neighborhood police. Neighborhood police. Remember, neighborhood police were employed to serve summons in any part of Guyana, not in the United States or anywhere, to execute warrants, to deal with minor offenses, to deal with domestic violence, and most importantly, to get actionable intelligence to pass on to their handlers so that they can do proper policing it. But they are abusing the neighborhood police. Perhaps the whole concept of neighborhood police has changed. Because I went to Corverton too, and at Corverton, there's a play park there. They say it's the First Lady Play Park, and there is neighborhood police again there performing or say performing duties, guarding the place. They said they want anything happen to the First Lady Park. So it's a waste of human resources. Neighborhood police were employed, especially Paul, you were there with Minister Tisher and them when the concept of neighborhood police was developed for them to serve summons, warrants, not repeat, not going to the states and serving summons, warrants, dealing with minor matters, dealing with minor incidents in their district, and in some circumstances, being the first responder. They were properly trained. I conceptualized, designed, developed, implemented, and implemented the neighborhood police training. I don't wonder if they're doing any training anymore. That the neighborhood police are being, I can't find the word I'm looking for, but we're not making use of our proper use of our natural resources. In my time when I get neighborhood police, something happening in one district there, and they can't give me no proper information. I used to hammer them. I used to deal with them. I used to get them serving summons, executing warrants, making arrests, and all kind of things. But I know, but now they're there beyond the boundary, 150 yards away, waiting to see if any mentally challenged person would run out the ground and assault the president. That's what I was told.
Yeah, not making proper use of the human resource, and it's sad because at the same time you have all type of issues, nice nuisance. You have all kind of other issues going along, and it's not being dealt with appropriately. But that's what you have. What we have is a lot of these things are about photo opportunity, about a photo op. And as I said, if it's the police involved, they get a corporate propaganda unit. They go around the place and they plaster all sort of gibberish and thing on the social media, and they believe that they're doing a good job. But they're getting paid, They are getting paid to do that. So we have come to the end of today's program. It was the first Monday in the year 2024. And the next program will be on Wednesday. That is going to be Wednesday the 10th. I encourage you, and I noted, I must say, that many of you have been following the page and liking the page on Facebook, following it on YouTube, and I can see that the numbers are growing. The numbers are growing in an exponential way, but we have to encourage you to continue. In that way, you get the program more popular. And one of the things I failed to mention, CCM, I got to bring you back. In the same ramblings of the vice president, he attacked certain journalists. He mentioned by name Gordon Mosley. He mentioned by name Travis Chase. That this, in other words, he's saying that they say things, they only try to show the government in a negative light. But let me say this. And people who have looked at Gordon Mosley News Source releases, that is one of the more professional releases, social media releases coming out from Ghana. I say that. It is difficult for you to find any flaw with that news source release. He has a daily roundup, and when news break, I have seen on social media, people make releases, and people have commented that, look, unless Gordon says it, right? Don't go for that. Gordon Mosley has one of the more reliable social media platforms. I am saying that without any fear of contradiction. But the vice president attacks Gordon Mosley. He mentions Travis Chase, that in other words, they're putting things out there to show the government in a bad light, but they're putting out facts. And it is noteworthy that the man who he gives access to, referring to the critic, he had mentioned a man who is there ranting a lot of expletives and all of these things, cussing people, and he has not mentioned him, but he's saying out Gordon Mosley. I remember he got things to Gordon Mosley too, just like Burke, because some years ago when he was the president, he banned Gordon Mosley, a journalist, from going to press conferences at the office of the president. That's a record. He banned Gordon Mosley. And this is people talk about freedom of information and freedom to say what you want to say. No way. It's autocratic ruling and autocratic behavior. Let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to say what he has to say on that, and then we're going to close out. CC, I almost forgot that.
Like you, Paul, I have the greatest respect for Gordon Mosley and Travis. I remember the trial on Travis, where they're saying that there were significant similarities with the ballistics with Travis weapon. Remember that? Significant similarities. Use fancy word instead of say there's a match or there's no match. Took away his weapon overnight, left him unprotected for days, and Gordon Mosley, very, very credible. And he's more patriotic than Jack Dew and others, because when they were not saying anything in relation to the Venezuelan situation, we know when it's 7:30 in the morning, because Gordon Mosley will play Not a Blade of Grass. Every when it's 7:30 in the morning, as long as you're listening to him, he playing Not a Blade of Grass. Those men are credible men, but they don't like credible. They want critic. So they're going to use critic. But I must say to Gordon and say to Travis, you all are doing excellent work, and continue to do the work, right? Continue in the same vein and inform the nation what is taking place.
Thank you, my brother. Continue in the same vein. I echo that. Continue in the same vein and let us know what is going on. And I say you present the information as is. That is what you do. You present. And they don't like that. They don't want the truth to be known. And we do the same thing. We have patterned ourselves after you. Bring the credible information to people. Bring the credible information. Folks, having said that, we have come to the end of today's program. I want to thank you for your attendance in class today. As I said, we had some glitches. I don't know if it's the finish. I have to get my technical man to look at it. So until we meet on Wednesday, God's willing, we're going to meet you again for another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Until then, so long. Bye.